So we just released V2 of Teleport. Tangled should effectively be caught up. Problem was, people started breeding cobras because you can get to a point where some grandma can take a picture of a dishwasher part. So you can say, ooh, bad at people. Open builds is shutting down. I'm not gonna read into it that much. If you're growing out the stub of an arm, a good prediction is that an elbow is coming out. Design the model well. Those types of things don't matter. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Slant 3D podcast, the show about 3D printing and our place inside the industry. Today we're going to go through Stratasys buying up bankrupt companies, things happening over at Open Builds, AI-generated 3D models again, and then finishing up with some big updates to Teleport, and then going through your questions, because there's a bunch. But before that, let's go ahead and pay the bills. This episode is brought to you by Teleport. Teleport is our 3D print-on-demand app. You can connect any e-commerce store to it, and we will print and ship items directly to your customers for you. You have access to hundreds of 3D printers instantly for free. All you have to do is upload a model, and whenever you get an order, we will print and ship that item directly to your customer for you. So check out Teleport today at slantpod.com. That's slantpod.com. The link is down in the description. All right, so first piece of news. Stratasys acquires key assets of operations of Forward AM Technologies. So Forward AM was basically a German material development company and filament producer. They filed for bankruptcy last year, and now Stratasys is apparently picking up most of the key assets, which would be like patents, formulas, that kind of stuff. Some people, a lot of the folks have probably found jobs by now. But this is per TCT. It was spun out of BASF last summer and then filed for bankruptcy immediately after. This company says it will continue to operate under the Forward AM brand, though the deal has been the formal constitution of a standalone company within Stratasys that will be known as Mass Additive Manufacturing. In its correspondence to clients and partners, Forward AM described the last 6 months as a challenging period for the company, but suggested it is now back and stronger than ever with the support of Stratasys. This is pretty open and shut. Like, it makes sense for Stratasys to do this. Stratasys is one of the few 3D printing companies that is currently in kind of an acquiring mood because they might have a little bit of money left over as compared to everybody else who is dealing with all the stuff they spent money on. But the Forward AM also had really high quality engineering materials that Stratasys is actually able to use. So there is a good deal here. Next piece of news. This is per 3D Print, All 3D The US-based online storefront Open Builds is clearing out its stock with a sale of up to 40% off while supplies last. Open Builds is shutting down. If you are not familiar with Open Builds did open source CNC machines. These machines were really good quality, really good designs. The company had been around for 12 years. And kind of got started in, that prime 2012 era when 3D printing and open source machinery was kind of getting rolling. Some of their machines were as large as 40 inches and stuff. So they were full size routing tables and that kind of thing. Cost about $2,000, that stuff. But they're shutting down. Per the report, per the CEO, the announcement on the page, after 12 amazing years, we've made the heartfelt decision to wind down Open Builds, wrote Mark Carew, Open Builds founder, in a statement on its forum. While this chapter is coming to a close, the legacy of Open Builds will live on in countless projects, machines, and ideas that you brought to life. Though the storefront is shutting down, the passion project turned storefront is exploring solutions for the forum to keep the community thriving. Okay, so Open Builds, bunch of open source CNC machines. They're going to try to keep the community alive so that people have resources and access to information. The GitHub is going to stay alive for how to build these things because you can technically go buy the parts yourself and build them. Open Builds would effectively provide the kit. As to why this is happening, I'm not going to read into it that much. This kind of stuff happens a lot. Open Builds would probably fall into the category of a small business, to where they were making a living but maybe weren't growing that much, or with the cost of goods increasing here in the last few years, just they don't want to continue increasing pricing, or it really drops demand because, again, open source projects are very generally cost sensitive. So the reasons for it are unknown and may never be known. But I wanted to kind of highlight this because of just our interest in companies and what they're doing at any given time. And Open Builds was so tangential to 3D printed projects and that kind of stuff that we wanted to include this. Okay, next piece of news. Roblox open sources Cube 3D model for AI-driven 3D object generation. Okay. The foundation generative AI model for creating 3D content with text prompts, the company has made a version of the model open source, now accessible via GitHub and Hugging Face. The beta version, which integrates with Roblox Studio and its Lua-based API, enables creators to produce 3D meshes directly within game environments using natural language input. Cube 3D applies a token-based system to understand and predict 3D shapes, drawing from techniques used in LLMs to forecast subsequent tokens in a sequence, effectively building a mesh piece by piece. This method supports both individual object completion and full scene layout generation to align multimodal inputs. Roblox engineers developed a unified transformer architecture capable with text, image, and future data types such as audio. The current release focuses on object generation from text, but future updates are expected to support screen-level outputs and hybrid input modalities. The reason we're talking about this, the discussion around whether AI 3D model generators are good, bad, or indifferent is a discussion that is done and over and is not relevant because AI 3D model generators are coming and are here right now. So moving into the technical discussion of this, most 3D model generators right now effectively hack photogrammetry. They take the image of an object and then they use an image generator to create all the 360 images of that object. Then they have a little bit of an ML 3D model generator on top of that takes all those images, does reverse photogrammetry on them to create a base model, and then they refine that mesh. Roblox is going purely from mesh, sounds like, to where they have enough geometric data around objects, which they have a lot of 3D models available to train from, so that if you start growing the body, if you're growing out the stub of an arm, a good prediction is that an elbow is coming up, and then a good prediction is that a hand is coming up. The way an LLM predicts that, okay, this is the sentence so far, a good guess for the next word is this. So a lot of people kind of incorrectly call LLMs spell correct on steroids, and that's that's underselling it, but this is effectively the same thing. Spell check on steroids. To where, it's character completion on steroids, which is terribly useful. The model they use as a demo is not very good from a 3D printing standpoint. It is fantastic from a game design standpoint. And if we're being honest here, video games have way bigger needs for 3D assets than 3D printing does. Video games have to populate an entire world with trees, bushes, and people. If you can generate that and game developers can just pop a character into existence, that's incredibly valuable to those studios. So that even though it's wildly computationally intensive, it is very useful compared to someone having to sculpt a new character for a day or two. To just throw something out that's going to blaze by or have 1,000 different cars driving on the virtual road, that's incredibly, incredibly valuable. So they do a base mesh and then they're able to overlay a photo on it so that it looks like the object, and you can't tell that the detail isn't actually three-dimensional mesh detail. It's photo detail, but that's fine. So this is one of the first fully open source ones that have come out. I think there's a few others that are around, but they just aren't very good. And admittedly, this one isn't great either from our perspective of engineering design of models. But they keep on coming, and more keep on getting released. So we're going to continue to cover them. AI 3D model generators are going to continue to be a thing and are exceptionally useful to the future of 3D printing, because right now, the primary bottleneck for a lot of 3D printing is not the reliability of the machines. It is, or the systems around them. It is the creation of the 3D models. That has always been the bottleneck. So AI is fantastically helping this solution because you can get to a point to where some grandma can take a picture of a dishwasher part and then the AI can generate that part, throw it off to like a service like ours, and that part can show up 2 days later without having to know anything about it. It's just blip, and it shows up in a box a couple days later. And you don't have to know anything about printing or slicing settings or what a good machine is or any of that shenanigan. You just get the parts you need, which is what people actually care about. Okay, company updates. Moving into Tangled. Let me see here. I gotta check one thing. Tangled, as of recording of this, should effectively be caught up. We did a number of 24-hour shifts and that kind of stuff, getting it all caught up. It was, and we got the machines back online and everything else, so it's rolling again. So hopefully all your orders are at least below a week and should be getting caught up to about the 2 to 4 day processing time. And then we're going to do another big old heave-ho here in about another week here or so that hopefully they stay ahead. And barring whatever other tsunami whacks us and causes a problem, we should be able to maintain that. Now, when memberships open up again, I don't necessarily know. When they do, they may kind of just blip open for a day again, because every time we open memberships, there's this big old surge of people who show up. So we'll send out an email when it happens. Make sure you're on the newsletter and you can get into the membership ahead of time. But Tangled, beyond that, colored orders are shipping basically immediately. All the inventory of that is caught up to where there should be stuff in stock ready to ship basically right away. So those are turning around in one to 2 business days generally. So yeah, you should be set right there. Okay, next big announcement, Teleport. So we just released V2 of Teleport. For those of you who don't know, Teleport was the 3rd iteration of our print-on-demand app last year. And we built it in November kind of as a reaction to a situation we were dealing with. So the first version of Teleport was the rough cut. And for a rough cut, it has been doing very well. It has several thousand users, and we're evolving it as quick as we can. V2 was just released. The primary feature of the way V2 is being released is that it's got like a baseline core functionality being released as of recording right now. So it's available. And then there will be additional features of that are released over the next week or 2. So we're going to be rolling out each one of these features to make sure that each one is stable and good and people are enjoying them. So this first version just has the free shipping alternative inside of it. So for those of you who are not aware, ShipStation was increasing fees. And we didn't like that. We didn't want that. We want our users to be able to get free access to Teleport, totally free. And it always bugged us that when we released it, ShipStation did have a free tier, and then it kind of went away to just a 30-day free thing. And we were like, we don't want a $10 fee on our users. So now there is not one. You get access to Teleport and the shipping capabilities of it totally for free. It is completely free. You can run on the free tier forever. Now there's limitations on that, but you can get all the functionality you need. You just can't have like 2,000 items and a bajillion shipments and unlimited access to materials and that kind of thing. But you can start up a store totally for free. We're very excited about that, and the team has worked really hard to get that out there. It has gone through verification and testing here over this last week, and we've been refining and bug fixing. If you have a bug, there's a big old question mark over on the side of Teleport. Let us know about it and we'll get it fixed. There will most definitely be teething with this new feature. There always is. And the transition to it, because a lot of people will be moving from ShipStation over to the new shipping service. So it should be fairly painless to get that done. And yeah, that should all be pretty darn good. Okay. After that, that core shipping part will go out. The updated prototyper inside of Teleport will go out, and that will fully replace our POD app, our print-on-demand app. Everything will be inside of Teleport. It will allow you to order individual items. It will allow you to order third-party parts. It will allow you to start doing certain things that we're going to start unlocking on Teleport here in the very, very near future. I don't want to do all spoilers right now. But the new prototyper will be released. The old prototyper required connection to the shipping service. The new one does not. So you can skip over all of it if you want and just use the prototyper. So if you're doing custom items or just messing around, you can do that. So the whole user experience is getting revamped. Part of this release is also a redo of the entire Teleport Slant Pod website. You will notice that very starkly when you go over there. The new Slant POD website is getting focused on, again, user experience and just getting distilled. When we first built Slant Pod, beginning of last year, it was meant to be a resource library for all the different apps because we had Etsy, Shopify, and we expected to keep on building them. But now that Teleport is pretty much universal and can work with every e-commerce store, we don't have to worry about that anymore. So Slant POD is being refocused towards Teleport exclusively and being cleaned up in a bunch of ways. So that will be live by the time you're watching this. Okay. That's a lot of the updates on Teleport. We've gotten a lot done, and the updates, those are the updates that you can see. The number of updates that have happened behind the scenes are also quite extraordinary and accelerating. So Teleport itself, the team is growing. So we've are actively hiring more developers, as you guys all know, who are working on Teleport. So the rate of improvement is going to really start accelerating here literally over the next few weeks. I'm going to say 2 months on the outside, but our thought right now is that we're just going to beat the crap out of this thing and make it really freaking awesome. So I recommend starting using it because as it gets more awesome, we're also going to refine stuff around it. So some features will show up. You'll get to be grandfathered in if you're using it right now, but then they might go behind like the premium tier or anything like that. So now is the time to use it all. So even though it may have a few spots and blemishes there, you get access to all the features for forever because we'll definitely grandfather folks in as best we can on all that stuff. Okay. I think that's everything with Teleport. There will be new tutorials coming out because a lot of the flow inside of Teleport will be changing. It's not radical and it's not difficult. Most people can fudge their way through it, but the tutorials are there around connecting to websites, connecting up the new shipping service. Again, all of that stuff is cleaner than it used to be, but we're going to keep on making it easier as we're able. But those will be coming out, and new features will be coming out. So instant refund, that kind of stuff will get added in there pretty darn soon. Excuse me. And then a request. I was on LinkedIn the other day, and there was somebody discussing this, a Substack that I follow. And they had mentioned, every print service should show off their success rate. And I was like, we have a pretty good success rate. We probably should just add that ticking across the top. So we're thinking of putting in like the refund percentage, like how many people per their own volition canceled or refunded orders, and run that percentage across the top of the website. And then like parts count and that kind of stuff, because there's been tens of thousands of parts run through Teleport to where we want to brag about that a little bit. And it's also cool as much as we can, because it's just cool. All right. I think that's everything with Teleport. I'm not sure if signups are open to the public again yet. We've held off on Teleport because number one, we had this release, and number two, just a lot of folks have been using Teleport, and we wanted to make sure it was all stable. We're trying to open it up to new users just as soon as we can. But we'll see if that's available right this second. I'm not sure that it is. We're pushing to get it opened up again as soon as possible. So it might be. Okay. Discussion topic. Questions from the audience. For the last few weeks, I have not been doing questions because we've just had a lot of other stuff going on. So here we are going through questions underneath our podcasts and various other places. If you will have a question that you want to have answered, go ahead and say question : whatever your question is down below, and we will try to get it reviewed here. In what EU country are you going to pop up the new factory? Would like to apply, but cannot move at this point in life. Also, how far in the future is the EU factory? Weeks, months, years. The EU factory should be going up in about months from now. So yeah, in about you should be able to see it coming up, and notifications will go up for the EU factory. Question. You say 3D printing isn't injection molding. There are benefits of 3D printing not in injection molding if you take them into account. But you also say a good model doesn't need 3D print settings. It can be printed well in the go-to settings. I hope say okay. If you don't have to make. I'm sorry. Okay, I think this. Okay, it goes into a DSLR camera and a bunch of other examples. I think the point you're making is that we say a model should be able to print as is, but optimized for the process. This is all in the design. Both of those are the same. So 3D printing has benefits not in injection molding that you need to take into account. Yes, this is like impossible geometries, infill, and very tight control of the geometry. That tight control of the geometry can all be done inside of CAD. So there is no reason to ever rely on the slicer for those. Now, the slicer does allow a few capabilities inside of there, but not many, and almost all of them can be done inside of CAD more reliably. And if you design the model correctly, it can go into any 3D printing machine or service or whatever else it was and come out as you intend. But if you are relying on your processes, your slicer settings, then you don't know if they will translate, and they almost never will, because your machine is different from that machine, is different from that machine. Literally, if you have your personal bamboo machine or something like that, and you're in a warm climate, that machine will print different quality, type, and parts than a machine in a cold environment, just because of the shrinkage of the metal and the dynamics of the plastic and the cooling of it all. Those are the types of things you're dealing with. But if you design the model well, those types of things don't matter. Okay. How do you avoid the rule of perverse incentives? I researched this a little bit before because, quite frankly, perverse incentives, I didn't know what it was referring to. It was underneath last week's podcast where we went through culture. I was like, I don't think any of our culture statements have perverse incentives to the side of them, but if I knew they were, I wouldn't have written them that way. For those who are not aware, perverse incentives are something that was kind of qualified by an economist in India who used cobra hunting as an example. What happened was the Indian government at the time said, we want to kill all the cobras, so everybody who brings us a dead cobra will pay you $1, or whatever it was. The problem was people started breeding cobras in order to kill them and deliver. And then when the government caught on to this, they said, no, stop breeding. We're getting rid of the bounty. And then people turned loose a bunch of farmed cobras, so there were more than before. That's a perverse incentive, to where the incentive structure makes the problem larger. The way to avoid this is that you can't avoid it. You try to avoid it. You try to plan ahead, but no human knows the future completely. But when you see it happening, you do something about it. The worst version of this is to see it and then continue trying to make it work. That's the mistake. There's no way to know every side effect of an action. You do your best with the information that you have. And don't overanalyze. Okay, question. You may have answered this already and I missed it. What are your views on types of machines? I see you have a couple on the print rack behind you. Oh, views on the machines behind us. These are for show. These are non-operable machines that we needed in the set. We needed black machines that filled in the back of the set there. We would have used our in-house machines, but they're silver, which messes up the color scheme because we wanted it black and blue. So we couldn't use our in-house machines. These ones looked fine. So that's the reason they're there. Aside from that, don't have any opinions on the things. Do you do facility tours? No. We don't do facility tours because we really, really value the privacy of our clients. Tours mean that we have to either shut everything down so people can't see what we're making, or we have to cover everything so people can't see what we're making, or we have to ruin the tour because people can't see what we're making. We don't do public tours because it's really easy to get sued if you are showing off parts. This is also the reason, if you ever look at any of our videos, very often like the B-roll in the background of like machinery, most of the machines are stagnant because we will film that B-roll when the system is not operational or we're in maintenance mode so that there's nothing that can potentially be revealed. We take security really seriously because people are trusting their models, which are effectively an engineered invention, to be produced. They are not signing up to have us show off what we're making to the world. This makes our marketing difficult because we cannot show off what we're making to the world. But yeah, we don't do tours for that reason, just security. And tours are also exceptionally disruptive because they're just people wandering through us all day long. And we have work to do. We have to get the work done. And that is the most important thing. Tours for companies very often become this glad-handing kind of action where it's like, look how awesome we are. We've got videos of how awesome we are. We don't need to have a pat on the back for our egos by letting people wander through our factory because it's so amazing. So no, we don't do public tours at all. Security is the big one. Secondarily, it's just bad culture and disruptive. Question. I love CAD and 3D printing. I got a part-time job at a startup where I review their 3D printed designs and optimize them for in-house printing where possible. Clamps, adapters, hinges. I really like it, but they cannot do full-time. What full-time position would I look for? Manufacturing engineer? Do you need a degree for it? I have a SWE degree, software engineering degree, but I can get another one if it would help me find a job where I can apply my skills. So you don't need a degree. You need to apply for a job and show competence. The degree is absolutely irrelevant if you can show that you can do the job. So have a portfolio and send across your most impressive thing. This is what I say to everybody who's applying. If you're sending something across, I do not care what your cover letter says about how awesome you love the company and all the rest of it. That's good, but you have to show that you can do the job. So share that you have done the job and do it really well. And then you don't need the degree. I don't care where you went to school. The actual job, the actual location where you got your education does not matter to me except when it's a negative. There are certain institutions that I immediately put someone in the doghouse because I'm just like, nope, that school creates people that are the wrong type of people. There's an instance of that. But generally, yeah, you don't need another degree. Just show you can do the job. If you're looking for a full-time engineer position in CAD, just look for mechanical engineering jobs. If you can do CAD, you can do mechanical engineering in most places. Okay, question. If parts are on a raft, should you still use mouse ears and sharp corners that warp up? If so, how? No. The raft is the mouse ears and that kind of thing, so you don't need to include those. The part should be spaced appropriately from the raft so that the raft holds it down, and then it takes a lot of effort to peel it off, which should be more than the amount of force that would cause warp. Question, approximately how far is the EU factory? I said a little while ago, it's about weeks away. Yeah, we're not revealing that right now. Question, I would like to hear your opinion on the copyright on models from sites like Thingiverse, etc. Public domain copyrights do not do anything. They have no enforcement. Public domain software has enforcement. All the companies who do open source and that kind of thing are sponsoring lawyers to ensure that it is appropriately used. There is no such entity in the 3D modeling world. The 3D modeling world started to use Creative Commons and open source as a means of licensing, but it is completely toothless without enforcement. So you can say, ooh, bad at people, but literally shaking your finger is all you can do. I don't like it because of that. As soon as, my thought is, as soon as the model is freely downloadable online, you have lost control of the model. So I'm not a huge fan of the repo models because there's no way of protecting the model. I think this is something that I think we can fix. I think Slant 3D is really positioned to help fix this because a print service doesn't have to share the model with the people selling the prints. So let me give you an example. Teleport. We have sellers who are selling prints of the parts, but they never see they currently upload files to us, but they don't have to. We could create a repo inside of Teleport where designers could upload models and then the sellers could get access to those models, access to prints of those models. So they could say, oh, okay, I want to start selling that vase that guy designed. Cool, you can start selling it. And when you get an order, that vase will be printed and shipped to your user. But you will never see, hold, or download the STL for that model. So the designer will always have full control of the model. And if the designer wants people to stop selling that model, they can just pull it out of that repo and it disappears from all the seller accounts. This is what we are able to enable through Teleport. Exceptional design protection, because it's just between us and the designer. And then the sellers can sell the prints. They can facilitate the sale of the prints. That protects it. The designers, since they're also in that system, are able to get royalties from the sales of the parts. So rather than like a subscription fee to see all their models, each time you sell a print of their model, they get 50 cents or whatever. And that way they have money off of the model forever and continuously, regardless of how and proportionate to the number of those models sold. So if they make a truly viral design, they get to make money from that design commensurate with its value. I think that's way better than selling off 3D models. Additionally, those designers can make way more money because when you're selling prints, you're selling it to normal people, and there are way more normal people out there than there are 3D modeling and 3D printing people. If you're selling the 3D model, you can only sell to the printer people, and there's only 1 million of those on the planet, but there's 8 billion normal people. So I think it's better, and it protects the designs, it gives designers more monetization, and it gives designers full control of their intellectual property, where copyrights and Creative Commons do not. Okay. Okay, a new question. May I know what modeling software? We use all the modeling softwares. Let's see here. This one's flagged for questions. Okay, I need to print several thousand small parts. Totally get the raft, and since I have 3 different part numbers that all look very similar, it makes it easy to identify part number and quantity. The question is, what layer height does the 0.2 and 0.3 offset work best with? If I am using a layer height of, say, 0.32, would I need to adjust my offset or raft height account for that layer height? You'll need to experiment. If you are our metrics are based on the standard teleport settings, which are 0.2 layer height. So if you are doing designed rafts inside of your own slicer, you will need to iterate through the raft spacing distance in order to get the one that works for you. Because it is dependent on material, it's dependent on design of your part, the surface area, all the things. Like there are so many things that affect raft spacing that if you want a catch-all rule, it probably isn't there. Question, will you please tell everyone that the statement simply publishing the thing does not give you the copyright is 100% wrong? As a law librarian, I am confident in saying that copyright exists from the moment one finishes a creative work. Granted, not all elements of a website are creative work, but you do not have to register copyright in order to have it. That said, registering a work with your country's copyright depository or national library can make it a lot easier to prove that you have a copyright if you ever end up in court. Okay, a couple things on that. Yes, I agree, and I think we should share that out. When you publish a written artistic work, that is technically the moment of copyright. However, that copyright is enforced in a court of law. And in order to prove that that copyrighted work was created at that date, you need to file a copyright, as she just said there, or as this person, she said just here. Yeah, in order to prove your copyright, you need to file a copyright. The rule is that it appears as soon as you publish, but you can fight about that all day long. So copyright is not really real until you have filed a copyright, because it has to be real inside of a court of law. Okay. Question, why are you excluding potential candidates who do not own the software that they write and who are not at liberty to post such work on a GitHub? This is per our hiring policy. Anybody who submits a resume to us has to send a link to their best work. If you do not write code that is publicly viewable as a side hobby, to where you have something that you can present other than just the work you did at a company, then again, you're automatically disallowed. Anybody who works at Slant 3D should have an interest in their job outside of work. So if you are a software developer who never writes software except when you're sitting at the desk in your office, you can't work at Slant 3D. Like, you have to do what you do outside of when you're paid to do it. That shows passion and interest and intentionality on that. And if you're not interested enough in your work to do it when you're not paid to do it, I don't like having coin-operated people at the company, because if your only motivation is that you're being paid for it, then you're going to do garbage work anyway. I don't know your background, but that is how we approach it from our own culture standpoint. Let's see here, moving to the next one. When you're talking about designing the raft and minimum spacing of 0.2.3, are you saying to design a gap between the parts in the raft? Yes. Your question, can you contrast your mechanism with the raft we can create in a slicer if we're only printing at home? If you're printing at home, adjust the raft spacing until it works for you. Question, thank you for your response from last week about 2.85 diameter filament. Sounds like the battle between VHS and Betamax. Is it possible that your filament partner, that it is allowing you to make other colors available to subscribers so they carry 2.85 diameter? No. We will not ever carry 2.85 diameter. Here's the thing though, 2.85 diameter has its place and very likely will continue to exist, because actually recently Zellerfeld did a video where they were discussing this with CNC Kitchen, and they're using 2.85 diameter filament because they're able to do TPU, and when you have a soft material that's really compliant, having it thick makes it easier to control, which is a perfectly justifiable reason for it. We will never move 2.85 because it is just another SKU and it complicates the packing, shipping, processing process. It increases the rate of errors. Can I upload a file and get a quote as to the cost I will be charged to print and ship? This would be my first file item, and before I set up the sales accounts with the online stores, I need to look at the cost of manufacturing and shipping. Yeah, Teleport has the new prototyper coming out to where you can just upload and get a quote there. There's also the print-on-demand app on Slant 3D where you can just upload it and get a quote there. So those are all options. Is it possible to order the same filament colors you use for Teleport? I'd like to ensure the products. Yes, they're over at Slant 3D, or at tangledfilament.com. You can buy all the colors. All the colors over there are colors available inside of Teleport. Will you be able to issue invoices for Teleport purchases? On roadmap. Those are coming out very soon. Can a person over 40 tell dad jokes if they got no children? Yeah, if you're over 40, I think that's the rule for dad jokes. I saw you say something about printing ULCSA certifiable electrical boxes. Could you explain how that works? Depends on the design of the box and the materials you're using, but that's a whole discipline. Question, couldn't customizability be done if it were done with the same kind of digital warehousing that Teleport uses? Yes. Yes, if that is entirely the business model. But if you have a preset item and then you add customizability on top of it, it's very difficult. this was in regards to the Slate pickup truck, and they were doing customizability on top of it. And I understand it, but not at this stage of the company. Customizability can be doable, but it's an incredibly high risk, and it's incredibly huge distraction, and it's incredibly prone to errors. So unless you are doing it very intentionally as a core capability and operation of the company, it doesn't work very well. It's also, if you're doing mass production, it's not very affordable, that kind of thing. But yes, Teleport is absolutely built as a digital warehousing platform to where you can throw up any model you want. But even then, customizability is very controlled. People mistake customizability for I can make any part I want. That's not what it is. Customizability is having a uniform base and then changing some feature of it. So if you want to make a keychain with the name of people on it, you wouldn't make the name and have that scrolled out on the build plate. You would make a flat panel, and then you'd have the name appear on that. That way the flat panel is the universal base so that you know it will always stick to the print bed, regardless of what the name is. And then the name can be written on that tablet, so you know that it will reliably be printed. That's how customizability is done. Customizability is very, very controlled. When you're doing it correctly, it is very, very controlled. It is not wide open season, all do whatever you want. There's a way of doing it. Okay. Are you still accepting empty spools to be returned to you? No. For Tangled, no, we do not. There's contamination, wrong spools, all kinds of problems. Question. For the PPE stacks y'all were making in COVID times, what vertical distance did you use between parts? Do you think we can design parts reliably for that in POD? Okay. So during COVID, a lot of people stacked up head or face shield parts so that you could print 5 at a time. That is only necessary for print farms that do not have automation. We never did the stacking because it really radically increases the error rate of your parts. We would do a single part and the machine would eject it and you'd move on to the next one. Prusa did stacked headphone stands because they have to try to fill up a 24-hour period of printing without having people stand there the whole time. It works. I don't think it works well, but at the same time, I haven't chased it down a lot. So I really dislike batching. Batching parts on a print bed increases errors, increases cost, increases lead times. Break the parts up as much as possible so they can be produced as fast as possible. This whole idea of like print speed is ridiculous because I can double my print speed from going from 1 per printer to 2 printers. And then you split the parts between those 2 and you're producing twice as fast. Don't batch your parts and they can be produced in an order with 100 parts can be produced in an hour if 20 segments of 5 can all be printed in an hour. That's how that math works. Okay. Question. When did you decide to start working on a ShipStation alternative? A while ago. If I were a betting man, I'd bet it was right after you found out the API didn't work after trial end. Oh, well, no, it wasn't that. We had roadmap to get away from ShipStation basically in January because of the shenanigans they did with us around the cost of the API because there was supposed to be a free tier for an extended period of time, and then there wasn't. What brand model is the industrial extrusion equipment you use for Tangled? No idea. Also irrelevant. It doesn't help anybody in sharing that stuff. Grab one that works. Okay, that has us all caught up. Alrighty, guys. Well, again, if you have a question that you want to have covered in podcast, go ahead and just go question : down below the video, or really any of the videos. We've expanded it to any of the videos. I used to be stringent and say it only had to be on podcast, but now it can be any of the videos, and we'll pull them all up. But yeah, let us know how that. Let us know if you have any other questions around the new version of Teleport or news stories that you want us to have cover, and we'll get them covered in future podcasts. Have a great day, everybody.